Welcome to SoCal Cyclist Podcast, the podcast that brings you the people and practice of the Peloton. I'm your host, Brian Coe, and joining me today is none other than SoCal legend, Ryan Dahl. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good, man. SoCal legend, huh?
SoCal legend. Well, one of the things I like about you and why everyone should like you is you're kind of one of the last true locals. Like, this is your spot. You grew up here, you grew up racing bikes, and you've been at it since you were a child. Most people don't get into the sport till, I don't know, after college or something, or they find it in midlife. You and I, we've been doing this since we were kids, so I feel like we have that sort of SoCal connection.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been it's been a passion since I've been 11, and I was just reflecting with a close friend today about how there's nothing else that just gives you that sense of accomplishment, buzz, and excitement. It's like every day I look forward to cycling.
Yeah, and the bikes have changed a lot since then.
Yeah, so. they're a little bit better now.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to me, I am Brian at SoCalCyclist.org. You can reach out on social media as well. Instagram is SoCal_cyclist, as well as Facebook, SoCal Cyclist Podcast. I do want to get to one thing before we get into the show. And I guess a lot of people have been giving a lot of feedback on my last show on the sponsorship effect. And basically, it caused a lot of people to give their opinion. So I did want to read some of that mail back. And Ryan, we picked one out, and I think we've got a good topic of discussion here. Who is this, and what did they say?
Yeah, it looks like we have a comment from Ben Miller, 04, and he says, "I've asked my local shop to price match. It was uncomfortable because they're friends, and I do attend their rides. I have really nice gear. They do a lot of my bike work. I just simply said, I'm getting a lot of stuff online. If you want, I'll buy it through you. That way, you can make something up. Up to you." They were more than happy to take some of my money versus getting none of it.
Yeah, and that is, for some people, it is a mortal sin to walk into a bike shop and go, "Hey, I can get this on Competitive Cyclist for this price. Can you give it to me?" Because a lot of times they can't. So it's kind of a weird, I don't know. I don't have that in me to do that to my local bike shop, to just walk in and go, "Hey, I can get this online. Can you do better?" And I don't know. How do you feel about that, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a touchy one because, retail as a whole is a changing industry right now. So you have these people who feel like they're owed the best price, but at the same time they need to go in, they need to try stuff on, they need to feel it, and so they take advantage of the local bike shops.
And what they'll do, they'll put on a helmet just for the size, or a pair of shoes, with no intention of buying it. They just want to physically do it, and then they leave and then get it on Amazon.
Right. So I feel for these retailers. They have the overhead, they have the employees, they have to carry inventory, and then they get taken advantage of. So yeah, it's a tough one. You have to really support your local bike shops. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Integrity.
And a lot of times it's a losing battle. GCN brought up a good point that if you own a bike shop and you get mad at a customer for buying stuff online, you have to ask yourself, have I ever bought anything online? Have I bought a book on Amazon? Can you expect your customers to do what you don't do, or what you do? So it's a tough thing, man. I've worked in a bike shop before, and I've seen sort of that side of people that some are just naive and they don't get it. Some are super savvy and they just want the lowest absolute price. And the bike retail world is changing with bike brands and things like that, going direct to customer and mobile bike shops that, because that's where people go for their labor. You can't get your bike fixed online. So. Right. It's a weird thing. But anyway, thank you, Ben, for writing in. If you want to write in, please do so, and we will try and get to you on a future show. But we did get a lot of feedback on this one, and it's been a while, so we wanted to reach out. Today we've got an interesting episode. I've never been super techie, but I figured why not take some of the brands that I've used and experimented with, and maybe a lot of consumers out there have used, and talk about how they are, what works, what doesn't work. And one of the cool things about Ryan is he just so happens to own his own brand within the cycling world. What is it, and what does it do?
Okay, yeah, well, I don't own it, but it's a family business, and the brand that I represent and work for is Wend, W-E-N-D. And Yeah, we offer an alternative to the standard way to lubricate your chain, which is basically a paraffin-based lubricant, which has proven to be the most efficient way to lubricate your chain. But where we come in is we have a unique way to apply it. Where in the past you'd have to take your chain off and dip it into like a crock pot of liquid paraffin,
and then ruin that crock pot, and potentially piss off somebody.
Yeah, absolutely piss off somebody. But yeah, so we've kind of worked with some chemists and some labs with our vendors and came up with a really good formula. And then our application method is where you actually rub it onto your chain and rub it into the rollers. And we've had a lot of success with it. It's new to market, but we've already, landed a race across America overall. Your good buddy Neil Shirley used it for Gravel Worlds, unofficial Gravel Worlds, and he won that. And so yeah, it's getting some legs, and I'm excited because it's kind of my baby.
Right. And so we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, Ryan, let me ask you this: what kind of do you use a power meter?
I do.
And how important is power to you as someone who's raced a bike before there were power meters?
It's, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I don't really stick to a structured training program. So I'll use my power meter as reassurance, or what I love to do is if I do a gravel ride or a blind kind of event where I don't know the course, I will download the route. I'll follow the kind of profile of the climbs, and I know my power number. So I'll have the climb up on my Garmin. I'll have my power meter down at the bottom left, and I'll have my heart rate on the right. And you can basically nail a climb blindly the first try.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we went out. We talked to Pioneer power meters. Now, most people think they're stereo equipment, but nope, they are in the power game. So let's check out and see what they said. I was going through my social media feed, and you're so used to seeing all these brands, and then you see Pioneer and you automatically think, oh, audio equipment, car stereos, stuff like that, home stereos. And then I looked twice and I thought, oh my gosh, they're making a power meter.
Yeah.
That is unprecedented because it's such a big company going into such a niche thing, which is power meters. There's 5 or 6, the bigger companies, and then some of the smaller ones. What was sort of the brainchild behind that?
Yeah, we get that a lot. We are the very same company. We're a 80-year-old electronics engineering powerhouse known for making some of the most high-end, high-quality home and car audio electronics on the planet. OEM for many auto manufacturers, and it was really born out of the idea. Oh, we also created the DJ culture, believe that or not. We make some of the most high-end equipment in the DJ industry.
Wow.
But our foray into cycling was really born out of just cycle geekdom. There were some engineers inside Pioneer about 10 years ago that were avid cyclists and were riding around in the local group rides in Japan and near where Pioneer headquarters are. And as engineers do, they kind of look around at things and they want to tinker with things, and they saw the landscape of the products that were out there at the time. So they started acquiring them, taking them apart, like engineers are prone to do, and wondering, how can we measure it better, and what else can we measure? And they realized some real opportunity there. Mm-hmm. So they kind of started a bit of a black works or kind of skunk ops sort of project within mm-hmm. Pioneer. Realized they had something really special, got some internal funding for it, and then simultaneously kind of started looking at a go-to-market plan. Mm-hmm. It took about 7 years in development before the first product was ever even really ready to go. Mm-hmm. And in a stroke of genius, instead of just launching out commercially, we took it with the then Belkin Pro team and gave it to them and said, here, you guys step on it, twist it, break it, tell us what works, tell us what doesn't work. And then from there, they made some modifications to essentially what is the products that are out on the market today.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because, well, what year did Pioneer come out officially?
It was 4 years ago.
Okay. So 7 years before that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this thing has been in development almost 10 plus years.
That's a lot of R&D.
Yeah. And I think it speaks to the amount of detail that Pioneer puts into anything. It was really important to us that we were going to put out a product that was the most consistent, the most accurate, the most durable on the market, knowing how sensitive these high-end electronic components can be.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny with power meters, you find like there's two kinds of people. There's a kind that want the most minimalist, slim, tiny, non-noticeable power meters, and then you have Pioneer where you can see it. It's very noticeable. I actually like the design. I like that it, you know, fits into that forearm spider, and you know, it lets people know like, hey, this is, you know, you're training with power kind of thing, which is really cool. So it's like it's almost gone the other way, where instead of trying to be the world's tiniest power meter, it's got, you know, right and left side only if you want. It's got some really cool features on there.
It does, yeah. That's become kind of an iconic badge of our product, is the transmitter on the drive side.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, we're covering it from all angles. So our system is a crank-based system. We can be single-sided or dual-sided. It can be purchased as a brand new crankset, or we're the only company on the market that would allow a consumer to send us their Shimano crankset and we'll install on it and send it back to them. Really affordable, cost-effective way to get into power.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I've been riding it for a little while, and I have to admit, I guess I'm only getting sort of one half of the story with Pioneer, because I've got the power meter, but my head unit is Garmin, and it works fine. It's kind of dying. The battery, you know, it's like 5-6 years old now, but it doesn't have some of the things that the head unit can do.
True. It's an ANT Plus device, so it'll talk with any existing ANT Plus computer out there, and we'll send you pretty much all the basics, all the good power data you would need to work with any coach or work on your own to help developing your cycling efficiency, cycling power. But when you pair it with the Pioneer computer, there are a couple of key pieces of data that we hold back and send only to our computer. Probably the most important of which is the concept of these power vectors. We're able to measure every 30 degrees throughout the pedal stroke what's going on at that point in the pedal stroke, and give you real-time biofeedback that you can use while you're riding to help adjust your pedaling stroke, make yourself more efficient, and therefore more stronger.
Okay, so if somebody's looking, so they're climbing a hill, they're alternating between standing and sitting, and they're kind of struggling, and they're looking down at specifically the Pioneer power meter. What is it? How are they going to look at that information and then sort of take action after that?
Sure. You can make even the most minute adjustment in your pedal stroke. For example, you possibly are deflecting down by being a toe pedaler with your heel up, toe down, and deflecting off. When if you start to level out your heel a little bit, you're going to notice that the power comes on more efficiently, more smoothly throughout the, let's say, the 1 to 5, 1 to 6 o'clock part of the pedal stroke. You can also see where you're applying negative pressure on the back side of the pedal stroke, and modify your leg position to minimize or eliminate that negative pressure, making your entire pedal stroke more efficient.
Okay. Wow.
Applying power more evenly throughout the pedal stroke.
Right. So I guess the days of just saying, oh, it's my left side that's strong or right side that's strong, now it adds a whole new dimension where you can say, oh, I'm more powerful on the upstroke, and not just mashing down on the pedals. It's more of a fluid stroke, and here's the information that tells me that. Precisely.
And it's real time too. So you can, as you're riding, as you're training, be watching this throughout your ride. You almost have to be attentive and really pay attention lest you miss some of the potholes and obstacles in the road. That would so mess with my head.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine myself being like in a SoCal crit somewhere, and I'm like, you know, following wheels, staring down, going, uh-oh.
I think when it comes to racing, you either are or you aren't, right? You're in the race or you're not. And what you hope to benefit from the race is all the training you did, where you've retrained your muscles, you've learned new muscle memory, and become more efficient in your stroke. So it's just the new way your body pedals.
Right.
And then you apply that in a race, you speed things up, you apply the intensity, and you've got more power at the end to finish and close really hard.
So it's interesting because we know that power has been used in the pro peloton since the SRM days, but we're seeing this sort of massive thing where I'm on a casual group ride, and guys are talking about their FTP, and guys are talking about, oh, what was your power up the Torrey Pines or this climb, you know? And I'm thinking like, wow, that's they don't even race. Some of them have never raced, but they're talking about their numbers as if, you know, they were pros. I mean, it's weird how long or how far, you know, data and metrics is going, especially with Strava these days. Like, do you see more of power meters utilized just in casual riding?
Very much so. And that's where we actually see the biggest growth opportunity, I think, in this market. If you think of cyclists in the scope of a pyramid, you've got your tip top of the pyramid, which is a lot of your elite, your pros and things like that, guys who get access to the product or get it for free, know about it, need it, and use it all the time. There's a big chunk in the middle there that is the occasional racer, the Grand Fondo enthusiast, the guy who's just getting tired of getting dropped by his buddies on the group ride sort of thing. And you can only go so fast by adding that expensive set of sexy carbon wheels and lightweight this or that onto your bike. Here's a tool that, when utilized properly, can and will make you a faster, stronger cyclist.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and
it's definitely taken over that middle stripe of athletes out there that that I think will be really, really impressed with their results if they when they apply it properly.
And to be fair to all the rec riders out there and group riders out there, there are rides, especially in SoCal, that rival a race. Or, you know, I do the Sunday ride. I was talking to my buddy, and he's like, my hour and a half power was the highest I've ever seen it, whether that's in a race or anything. And, you know, we hurt just as bad in group rides. And, you know, Fondos too are basically races. I mean, wasn't there a doper that got caught for doping her Grand Fondo?
Several.
So it's you know, it's pretty serious.
Yeah.
It's a serious thing. So that's super important. We know that Pioneer isn't the only sort of power meter out there. There's a lot. What sort of sets it apart from some of the other power meters that are out there?
That's a great question. And it goes back to what we talked about a little earlier, which is the engineering behind all of Pioneer's products is such that we were going to eliminate as much as possible any sort of negative attributes to what those products do. And if you look back, like you mentioned, the advent of SRM, it's a very finicky electronic piece of equipment. A lot of the early power meters had problems staying calibrated. The batteries are dying out. If you had that rear wheel, that rear hub mounted SRM, you had to send it back once a year to get them to put the batteries in. If it got wet, it probably started to die. And a lot of the ones that came after that did the same.
Right.
Well, it was important to Pioneer because we are so good at manufacturing products that survive in really tough environments, you know, heat, sun, bouncing around inside of a car. We know how to make stuff really, really well. So we were not going to put out a product that we knew was going to be very, very durable and be able to withstand the rigors of the road, where it's placed on the bike, the amount of exposure it has to mud and water and the goop falling off your bottle, etc. Another key component was this notion of consistency. A lot of the products on the market would have big spikes in the data or big gaps. And that's a problem. It skews your numbers. If it's not a true number, how good is it? How important could it be? So we were going to make sure that we had a product that had a robust, very strong transmitter to keep in constant communication with the head unit, but also not drop out, give you big gaps in your data, and unnecessarily spike your data.
Yeah. And that freaks people. I remember when I first started wearing heart rate monitors, I'd ride under like a bunch of power lines, and then my heart rate would be like 300 or something, and it'd freak me out, and then I'd keep riding, and then it would settle back down.
Yeah. Once you realize you're not going to die and your heart's exploding, you'll be okay. The other key attribute, I think, is a feature of our products is the notion of accuracy. You wouldn't go to the gym and just grab barbells off the rack that had no numbers on them. So how good is a number? And for whatever reason, accuracy was the often disregarded element of power meters. As long as it seemed consistent, it was okay. That number was there all the time, and I was getting that number. But that's not any good if that number is not accurate. Again, we weren't going to put out a product that we knew was not the most accurate on the market. So those three key attributes, I think, are the ones that really set us apart.
Yeah. And, you know, I only started using power meters just a few years ago. And I've had maybe 4 or 5 of them, but I do notice, because everybody has their route that they take, or, a measure of road that they look at, and then they look at their numbers. I notice that, for some power meters, it registers a little bit lower than a previous one, or some are a little bit higher, but consistency is actually the most important thing, because it doesn't matter the actual number as long as it's as consistent as it can be. Then it gives you the bigger picture. And I think with Pioneer, it kind of prides itself on that, especially being dual-sided.
Very much so. And that dual-sided is important because we're able to measure that power independently. So I'm looking at the body, both left and right, and then I'm rolling up to a total power number. A more advanced rider or even a fitter can use that data to identify anything from a possible leg length discrepancy to a latent injury that may need some treatment, or even a fit issue that can be resolved with some cleat placement or seat height, fore aft, things like that.
Right. Dumb question, but can you use just the right, or can it only be just the left?
No, it could be just the right. It's just that
Really?
from a cost factor, the left is a less expensive part to get brand new.
So so basically you have to be a rider on your bike, and you have to be riding a Shimano crank?
We are primarily aligned with Shimano, yeah.
Okay, so you're riding a Shimano crank. You take, just say the left crank arm, you send it into Pioneer, and they glue it. I don't know the right term.
No, right on.
Attach it somehow.
It's a fantastic process. We call it our kit process. I jokingly refer to it as the gateway drug to power, because you can send us your existing crank arm or crank set, and we'll install on it. You get a box. It's basically got power meter parts in it. You fill out the birth certificate. It tells us about you, the bike it's going on, and the computer you're going to pair it with. You pop it in the box. You mail it to us. We install the power meter on your crank and send it back to you. We only keep it about 48 hours to get installed and calibrated. It's in the box back to you with instructions on how to pair it up to your device.
Right.
You can start with the left side, and then down the road when you get really hooked on it and your secret PayPal bike account builds up, you can do the same thing with the right side, and then you got dual-sided power for, gosh, well under $750.
Yeah. And then those batteries are just like those 2032 batteries that...
Correct.
Those flat ones that you just pop in and out.
2032 watch battery. You'll get about 180 hours of ride time.
Wow.
Per side, per battery.
That's an insane amount of information coming out. That's a lot of riding. That's half a season for some people.
Yeah.
Maybe not half, maybe a little less, but still, that's a lot. So the pros are using. What are the pro teams that are using Pioneer right now?
We got the Lotto team, which we're very proud of, extending our partnership with them. It's been fantastic. We couldn't be prouder of all the Tour de France victories that they had last year. They represent the brand really well, and over there in Europe, they put it through its paces, man. They're in some of the, riding around all year in the winter training that they do, and then the racing. They put it through probably the most extreme conditions we could think of, and always come out with really, really good results.
Yeah. It's and again, like if you're at home watching a World Tour race or a classic on TV, you can see which riders are using Pioneer power meters as opposed to other ones, because it's just clear as day right there.
There was a great scene from the this past year's the Colorado Tour. I forget the name of it now.
USA Pro Challenge.
There you go. Yeah, this past year on the Breckenridge stage. Where there was a Holowesco rider and a UHC rider both doing the circuit loop through Breckenridge, and they were on the climb together, and the shot was from the right side and both on a Pioneer power meter. So we had this really great almost 2 minutes of coverage of the two of the guys leading the breakaway.
You just told them to go to the front so they can get airtime, right?
That's not up to us, man. The one guy missed the win of that race by the narrowest of margins. I felt so bad for him because he really turned himself inside out.
Oh, that's funny. That is so cool. Awesome. So where can people find ways to get Pioneer power meters these days?
Your local bike shop. We support independent bicycle dealers all across the country. Virtually every one of them has access to getting our products. And if you need to learn a little bit more about them, you go to powerisking.com. It explains all the unique HD metrics that we are able to push out, and as well has a full explanation of all the products in our line.
That's Jim Miller of Pioneer Power Meters, who can also be found race announcing at your local quick and dirty mountain bike race, as well as emceeing BWR. Coming up after the break, we talk to Ard Kessels, who makes some of the most unique bearings and pulleys around. Haute Route is the world's most prestigious amateur cycling series. It delivers a professional level experience for riders across 11 events in 2018. Held at the world's most iconic cycling destinations, they provide professional level support. Events are timed and ranked with premium services as riders are pushed past the edge and share memories, camaraderie, and a sense of achievement. U.S. events include San Francisco, Asheville, Utah, and the 7-day Mavic Haute Route Rockies. For more information, visit hauteroute.org or check show notes for a discount for 10% off until the end of the month. When you're out riding, how often do you think about health insurance? Probably not very often. You only think about it when you need it. Well, let's talk about Health IQ real quick. The important thing about Health IQ is that 56% of Health IQ customers save between 4 and 33% on their life insurance. If you like saving money on car insurance for being a good driver, Health IQ saves you money on your life insurance for basically living a health-conscious lifestyle. So let me ask you this. If you've ever done a bike race, a fondo, a gravel event, a cyclocross race, a fun ride, you can qualify for Health IQ and have a lower rate than you probably normally do on your current life insurance. 70% of exclusive rate clients get approved in the top rate class, and it's one of the fastest growing insurance companies with over $5 billion in coverage. For more information, check out healthiq.com/SoCal to see if you qualify, and if you're listening to this program, you probably already do. Ard Kessels runs Kogel Bearings. Based in Texas but originally from Europe, Ard has put himself on the map by making some of the most high-end bearings, pulleys, and bottom brackets around. Here's Ard with more.
I'm the founder and owner of Kogel Bearings. We're a high-end ceramic bearing company that's just specialized in bicycles.
And why do people buy high-end bearings?
I think to complete the package on their bike. Traditionally, bearings are a forgotten part of the bicycle. So people, when they buy a bicycle, they don't think about their bearings, but later on in life they might realize that it's at the heart of everything that turns in on your bike. So it needs to be optimized.
So what type of bearings do you have? What products do you sell? And what sort of sets your bearings apart from, say, the stock bearings that come with your bicycle when you buy it new?
What sets our product apart is the fact that we actually spend time to make the product as good as possible. Traditionally, if you think of a product manager putting together a spec sheet for a bicycle, at the top is the frame, and right underneath is the wheels, and then you go all the way down to the bottom, and that's where the cassette and the chain is, and underneath that are the ball bearings. So by the time you come to the end of the list, usually the money that's available to spec that bike is spent. So bearings traditionally are the cheapest available.
And so does it make a difference in terms of either performance, or does it make a difference in terms of longevity of the bicycle or the drivetrain?
I think the answer is all of the above. If you ride with really nice bearings, you'll feel the difference. We've put a lot of riders on our products, and when they come back from their first ride, they usually say either I had a very good day today, or those bearings work.
And when it comes to sort of your competition, is there a rise in aftermarket parts for cycling? Is that on the rise? And then in turn, are you competing for that, space on the bicycle?
There is absolutely a rise on the high-end market. When we hear that the general bicycle industry is on the decline, what I usually hear in the shops is that what's keeping them in business is the $500 bikes and the $7,000 bikes at the moment. And of course, on the $7,000 bikes, there's lots of room to spec aftermarket parts.
So are people who own those $500 bikes, are they not going to be buying your products?
I would not recommend it. And this is not because I don't want to sell them $500 worth of bearings, which would technically double the value of their bike. But if you buy a $500 bicycle, there are a lot of parts on there that are, I would say, more important to upgrade at this point. Like if you buy a $500 bicycle, probably the wheels on it are going to be super, super heavy. So that would be the first thing to upgrade. Same thing for the handlebars. They're probably not as comfortable. Same for the saddle. Like a cheap saddle will not sit as well as a well-fitted premium saddle. So on the $500 bicycles, there's a lot of parts that I would recommend upgrading before you touch the bearings.
A lot of companies, big ones, small ones, they spend a lot of money when it comes to branding, marketing, that kind of thing. And with bearings, that's kind of a hard thing to do because people don't think about their bearings in the same way people think about their tires or their wheel set. So how are you able to sort of take a part that's relatively obscure and put an identity to that and put a brand to that?
I like how your question immediately describes my answer. I worked in fashion for 10 years, and I always looked at white T-shirts and questioned, like, why is one white T-shirt going to Walmart and is like $3 for $15, and why is the other one going to the Versace store and is like $100? So a lot of that is in storytelling and telling your customer why your product brings a certain image. That's easy for a T-shirt. That's maybe not so easy for ball bearings to attach an image to that. What we do is educate people on quality and what to look for in a good bearing. And that's something that we in our marketing strategy started doing, is just taking any possible question that we've ever been asked by our customers and by consumers and answer it in blog posts, in video posts.
So what should people be thinking about when it comes to their bearings? I mean, people could talk about tire pressure all day long. But if you ask them about bearings, I think most people would say, well, as long as they work, it's fine. And then, and when it doesn't work, then it becomes a problem. So to the person who's a bike racer or more than just the $500 bike customer, what should people be looking for when it comes to their bearings and pulleys and other parts?
Isn't it funny that whatever is at the heart of everything that goes around in circles, which is at the core of you trying to propel your bike forward, people think if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
That's true. That's true, yeah.
When you keep that in mind, actually, ball bearings become very important. Like, they're inside your wheel hubs, they're inside your bottom bracket, they're inside your pedals and your derailleur pulleys. If on all those rotating parts you could save a little bit of friction or can make it a little bit more durable, that would be amazing to people buying top-end bicycles.
Right. So anything that moves.
Exactly.
Any moving part is important.
To me it is. But, I look at ball bearings all day. So if you ask somebody that makes tires, they'll probably have a very similar opinion about their tires.
So when it comes to Kogel, what's been sort of the top seller there?
If you look at the bulk of what we sell, it's bottom brackets. We have a system that fits any crank and any frame without adapters. So whatever frame you buy and whatever groups that you plan to run on it or a power meter will be able to have a native solution for putting those two together. If you look at the individual best sellers, it's our derailleur pulleys.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing. And you earlier you talked about, well, you don't really see some parts, but when it comes to pulleys, people notice it. Now, I don't know if people buy it for the bling factor or because 1 or 4 watts savings is that important. But let's talk about sort of the evolution of pulleys. I think, a lot of pulleys are going big. They're going more than, 10, 11 teeth, more than that. Let's talk about your pulleys. What was the idea behind that?
The first idea was just that we wanted to make a really high-end pulley that holds up. So for that reason, we chose aluminum as a material because it's more wear resistant than the plastic or Delrin used on most stock pulleys, and we put a high-end bearing in it just to make it more durable. In the end, when you optimize all those parts, it's going to run a little bit lighter as well, so it's going to save you a little bit of watts.
Mm-hmm. And then mixed with a high-end chain, really good lube, maybe ovalized chain rings, all that combined over, a 40K time trial. Are you saving minutes at that point?
I think so. I've never done a 40K time trial, so
neither have I.
It sounds terrible.
I know. Or the hour record. Yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Yes, all these little things help. Is changing your pulleys going to turn a donkey into a racehorse? No, it isn't. But if you combine it with, like you say, finding the right chain loop for the conditions you're riding in, making sure your tires are at the right pressure, making sure you picked all the right parts, that in the end is going to make a difference that could be minutes. I'm convinced.
Customers are, I think cycling's just in the last few years getting more expensive. And as a result, customers are wanting to spend more money on bike parts that they wouldn't normally spend. Do you think you're sort of riding that way when people are wanting, the whole world of marginal gains, right? Where, they'll look at Chris Froome and say, okay, if he did these little things, now I have to do it. Is that helping the industry or hurting it? I mean, a lot of people are saying cycling's the new golf.
It is, and well, look at a company like Rafa. They created their own market with a very specific customer, very specifically aimed at people that don't race bikes, tapping into the lifestyle aspect of it. So yeah, I see that there is a market for that. And do you think Kogel would have survived as a company 20 years ago? Oh, that's a tough one. The specific product that we make, ceramic ball bearings, was not developed. It wasn't ready for market 20 years ago. So
if you had it, would people say, oh, we got to get this. We got to get it. I mean, this is a time before electronic shifting, before Strava. None of that existed.
In my eyes, everybody that buys a road bike with drop bars or buys a mountain bike, like a cross-country mountain bike, is looking for that bike to go faster with less effort. So for sure, we would have found a way to spin that.
Ard Kessels of Kogel Bearings also just came out with a new concept and a new project in gloves. Handski Gloves will make its debut at Sea Otter Classic this year. They just launched a Kickstarter campaign and are doing great. What kind of bicycle rack do you own for your car? Does it fit on the roof? Does it fit in the back? For many, bike racks are a deeply personal choice, almost as much as choosing the bicycle itself. Few people can say that their bikes and bike racks have been in an airplane. And what I mean by that is not in the actual airplane, but outside of it. Chuck from Seasucker Racks has done exactly that and has revolutionized the game with his suction cup mounts. We caught up with him at Tour of California and talked to him about his racks. I'm with Chuck with Seasucker, quite possibly the world's smallest, most unique bike racks out there. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for that.
So tell us what you're doing here at the Tour of California.
Well, we're having fun. We came out to support some of our teams, like Quick Step Floors. We were out at the Classics showing them our new team rack this year, and they're using the team racks here at the race. Holds 9 bikes. All the team racks in the past have always been made in Europe and welded in Europe. They weigh about 3 times the weight of ours. Ours weighs about 70 pounds. It fits in a case. That's never been done before either, where they can actually travel with a full race-ready rack, where 4 bikes can be taken off quickly, another 5 fork-mounted. And they've been really loving using that rack. We're also here, though, at the expo. We're helping Tour California with a time trial this year. We did a We did a special mount that holds the placards for the riders with their numbers on it and their
you
name.
suction those on the
Yeah,
hood?
suction on the hood.
Nice.
So we made that easy for them. We helped them with that, and we did 3 expos and helping support our teams.
So what do you say to those naysayers that are like, oh my God, I'm scared of driving because it's going to come undone, or it's not fastened to anything, it's not fixed.
Yeah, I mean, almost everyone.
I'm sure you hear that all the
Oh,
time.
for sure. I mean, if you look at it as a consumer, if you've never seen them before, and you see I've got a $5,000 bike, I'm going to put it on a suction cup. Are you kidding me? No way. That's what goes through everybody's head. Now, these have been used for the pros for 5 or 6 years. I've got $120,000 worth of bikes on Quick Step's rack. They better not come off. You know, that it's...
Ever
we've been
lost a
doing it for
bike on a
years.
sea sucker before?
No, I think we've got about 70,000 racks out there. I know of one scenario that went to insurance, and then when insurance does it, they take care of it and they fight. And that guy was denied because he never did any maintenance through the insurance company.
Gotcha.
So we've got a pretty great record. I think it's better than any other rack because you know if the integrity of the rack is good immediately. Yeah. If screws come out, you don't know that. If the integrity of this rack starts to fail, you know immediately because the pump starts to come out. It has a mark on it, and you see that it needs to be attended to.
Great. Well, fantastic, Rex. Sea Sucker, where can people find you online?
Seasucker.com. You can buy it a lot of other places as well. We're in an awful lot of bike stores too.
All right, that is some wonderful tech. Ryan, let me ask you, we talked about it at the beginning. Well, first of all, for the people that don't know, what does Wend actually mean?
It means to take the non-direct route. So, yeah, if you want to go to point A to point B, it's like, take your time. Like, take the long way.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And the other thing, too, is this is a game changer because for years, and many people out there still do, they use lube-based, not lube, but liquid-based lube. And this is the first, you take something that's totally different, a solid, you apply it to your chain, and the results have been pretty overwhelming. I mean, it's people use it in dirt. They use it for mountain biking, road biking, all kinds of applications, and it stays on there longer. And you don't, at least for me, when I notice like I'm flossing my cogs, I get zero like black residue.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I think we all have a garage full of ink black rags, from wiping chains, and it gets annoying. It sprays over your spokes, it gets all over your rear wheel. You have this state-of-the-art bike, it's pristine condition, and then you're having to wipe the thing down every day after a ride, and you're using a lubrication that may not be that efficient. So, being in the wax business and being a lifelong cyclist, I started working on different formulations a few years back. And came up with this formula that just worked really good. And it was a hot wax application where I would take my chain off and dip it, and then I would do these races and these rides. And in Southern California, the rides are so intense, and you can really feel these marginal gains. And right away, I knew I had something special. The bike stayed clean, the chain was quiet, it was fast. And so I just kind of didn't want to enter the market with a standard hot wax product. So we went about coming up with different ways to apply it. And one of the ways was to rub it on your chain. And we did that. And I thought, there's no way this should work. It doesn't penetrate. There's no way the wax is going to move into the chain. So I rubbed it on the chain, and I took a little plastic baggie and ran the chain through the baggie and squeezed the wax as far into the chain as I could. And I went and rode, and I rode and rode and rode. And, a couple 100 miles later, the chain was still quiet, and my spokes were clean, and it felt fast. And right then I knew that we had something special.
So are people doing this for the watt savings, or are they doing it for the cleanliness? Like what's the ideal customer who gets Wend? Yeah,
it's not for everybody. It's for the tech guy who wants the marginal gains, who wants his bike clean. He has a solid understanding of what new tires feel like, what new chains feel like. He's looking for those marginal gains, and he enjoys working on his bike. So, there's a bit of a learning curve. I always compare it to tubeless. It's not a perfect science, so you kind of have to go at it with the intention of getting the wax as deep into your chain as possible. But once you get it, you love it. And the people who really have switched over to Wend and made the commitment to use only the wax, they're basically telling everyone about it. So the brand is growing organically with really little advertising.
And what's funny is there's multiple ways to use wax on your chain. I mean, I've experimented just because I like to tinker on stuff, and I've taken my wife's hair dryer after I apply it and just put it on hot and just put it like on the cassette, backpedal it a little bit, and watch it just kind of melt into it. What are some of the hacks that people do when it comes to applying it? Because there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, I think everyone has their favorite way. You know, it's kind of like cooking, where yeah, same thing. Like, you know, we have a national champ, Brian Scarborough, came to me and he's like, I like to use a lighter, and I melt the wax into the chain. And then somebody else said I use my wife's hair dryer. I like to rub it on with my finger, and then I go back over it with our cleaner product, and that kind of does a chemical melt. And yeah, so everyone kind of has their own little style technique, but ultimately the end result's the same. It's a really quiet and efficient drivetrain, and the cassettes and the chain rings, they're lasting forever. I mean, I think I have like 15,000 miles on a cassette, and it's still fine.
Wait, 15,000 miles between applications?
No. I mean, my rear cassette hasn't worn out in 15,000 miles.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, so the drivetrain components get this coating on wax, and the wax is a barrier between the chain and the chain ring. And so the wear is minimal. You know, some chain rings come with black anodized coatings on it.
Yeah.
My front small chain ring has 8 months, you know, I don't know, 10 hours a week, and the anodizing hasn't worn through yet. So yeah, so what happens with an oil-based lubricant, it picks up these contaminants like sand, and it turns it into this polishing compound. And this compound wears away the cassettes and the chains and the inner workings, you know, because it's a wet lubricant. So with the wax being a dry lubricant, it actually repels those contaminants, and so you get a cleaner drivetrain that lasts much longer.
So you're saying for years, the liquid actually, by using enough of it, it wears down the teeth of a cassette or a front chain ring.
Yeah, if it gets contaminated, you know, if you think about it, you're basically taking an oil and adding sand to it, and what's that? That's basically a rubbing compound, an abrasive mixture of
soft scrub.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, yeah. I don't want to bash it too bad, but yeah, it wears out parts.
So, would you be willing to say wax is the future of chains?
I mean,
drivetrains?
You know, it's like anything. People are hard to change. They're set in their ways. We're just looking forward to offering an alternative to the oil-based lubricant. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so far the feedback's been really positive.
One of the cool things is you have wax in your blood. What a lot of people don't know is sticky bumps, right? That's your history, family history.
Yeah.
And for SoCal, there's two sports. There's cycling, which we talk about, but the other big industry here is the surf industry. And I've surfed for years, and I've only used sticky bumps, nose to tail, rail to rail. That's like that's the tagline, right?
Yep.
And you know, there's like a picture of Rob Machado's like, I guess, you know, surfing's maybe not Lance Armstrong, that's Slater, but anyway, and it's just what people use down here, and that's what you grew up in, right?
Yeah. My dad started the company in '71, and that's all I've known. I mean, I've been working there since I was 15, and we know wax. You know, we do surf wax. Yeah, our biggest brand is sticky bumps, but we also do racing, like world-class racing ski waxes.
Oh yeah, so for like the Winter Olympics just happened, are people using your products on their skis and snowboards?
We have over 20 Olympians on our product.
No way.
So yeah, we have a really high-end ski wax line, in addition to, you know, our bike waxes, and we do a lot of private label stuff too, but we definitely know wax, and yeah, and we love it. You know, it's and the business was founded on, you know, it was founded on the mentality that you want to provide for an active lifestyle. That was the fundamental principle that the business was founded on. And my dad, he's a cyclist. He likes to motocross. You know, he loves to surf. And
so you weren't the black sheep in the family. It's like, I'm going to race my bike. whereas everyone else was surfing.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean, in this day and age, surfers don't just surf. They like to ski. They just enjoy the excitement of living. And a lot of that's surfing, or it could be bike racing, or it could be motocross. And a lot of these guys do all of it, so that was kind of the basis of Wax Research. That's actually the company name was founded on, was to provide that lifestyle. And it's been a fun journey with the family.
And one of the things is, when I first used Wend, I smelled it, and it reminded me exactly, like the smell, just like, oh, this is what my garage smells like, because I have a lot of surfboards in there with just wax on there, and it's like, it smells exactly like the sticky bumps that I've used. So,
yeah, we learned that from surf wax. It's just, it takes you back. The scent's a powerful.
So that was an intentional thing for.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. It wasn't just coincidence.
No, I mean, you can't mention surf wax in the same sentence and not talk about scent. It is, as soon as you smell it, it brings you back to some happy event, and we wanted to kind of, use that same.
Oh yeah, you go to a surf shop and people bust open the package. The first thing they do is they take it to their nose. Yeah. Before they even put it on the board, it's that nice little ritual. Yep, that's the same scent I've been using for years, and then they get to work on it. So that's great. How can people find out more about Wend specifically?
I think the best way is to find us on Instagram at Wend Bike, and that'll kind of give you some video of how the product's applied, and give you kind of a rundown, as well as a link on our bio to purchase.
Those are really some fantastic different types of technology, different kind of products. And honestly, this is our hopefully first of many different tech episodes. I only want to showcase things that are really interesting out there, sort of cutting edge, maybe just a little bit different. And let me know if you have a piece of tech that you're interested in or want me to cover. There's a lot out there, and it's so hard to keep up with all that's going on. So we do appreciate it. And if you want to learn more info, these companies are definitely on the cutting edge, as I said. And a couple of them are even based in SoCal. So I would say go ahead, check them out, do your own research, find out what works for you. And hey, if you can afford it, by all means, go for it. If that means saving watts, or having more power, or having a better running drivetrain, or more secure rack, is one of those things that you want to do. So again, if you have a question, please reach out to me, Brian at SoCalCyclist.org, or on Instagram at SoCal_cyclist, as well as Facebook. And love to hear your thoughts on it. Again, this is our first tech episode, and I've never been too tech heavy of a type show, but I thought this one was really interesting and it went really well. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to give me a shout out. And in terms of upcoming events, obviously we have Belgian Waffle Ride coming up. Don't want to miss that. That's in SoCal. And of course, the big thing is the Tour of California. This time it's actually starting in Long Beach, California, and it goes from south to north. So be sure to check that out as well. But until next time, this is Brian for Ryan Dahl, Jim Miller, Chuck, and Art Kessels saying, respect the wave.